Hello everyone, bonjour, welcome to lesson 3, your French GCSE revision. I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Here we go. French GCSE revision, lesson 3, past tense, or perfect tense, or passé composé. You might know it under any of those names. Either way, we're looking at the tense that describes events that took place in the past. One-off events, things that happened yesterday or while you were on holiday. They're lists of events, they're not ongoing situations. That is the imperfect tense. Here's an example paragraph of the passé composé. Le week-end dernier, je suis allée au centre commercial avec mes amis. J'ai acheté un nouveau pantalon et après ça, nous sommes allés au cinéma. Mon ami a choisi le nouveau film de James Bond. Oops, get rid of car. Et j'ai mangé beaucoup de bonbons. To make this tense, you're using 3 parts: a person, auxiliary, and a past participle. I put them in red, orange, and green so that you can look at them like traffic lights. So here are the examples that we used in the passage there. Je suis allé. J'ai acheté. Nous sommes allés. Mon ami a choisi. J'ai mangé. So we've got 3 parts every time. The red will always be, in this lesson today, we'll see that as the person. In orangey yellow there, you'll see the auxiliary. And in green, you'll see what we call the past participle. Past participle is the actual verb that you're doing. So in the first example, you went. Je suis allé, I went. J'ai acheté, I bought. Nous sommes allés, we went. Mon ami a choisi, my friend chose. J'ai mangé, I ate. The green one, the past participle, the main verb we're talking about is made like this. You take the ER verb, you take the ER off and put an E acute. If it's an RE verb, you take the RE off and put a U. And if it's an IR verb, you take the IR off your verb, like finir or choisir, and it just gets an I instead, so that's choisi or fini. That's the general rule, but funnily enough, this being French, there are a load of exceptions. I've got a page here of all the main exceptions, which you may recognize. Lots of them end in U. J'ai eu, j'ai bu, j'ai cru, j'ai dû, j'ai su, j'ai vu, j'ai pu, j'ai connu, j'ai lu, je suis venu, j'ai voulu, j'ai couru, j'ai reçu, j'ai vécu, j'ai pris, j'ai compris, j'ai appris, j'ai mis, j'ai dit, j'ai écrit, j'ai ouvert, j'ai fait, on était, je suis né, il est mort, il a plu. Those are all available on the worksheet that you can get if you contact me through my website, which is www.lucymartintuition.co.uk. All of this you can have on paper. I'll send it over to you when I've corrected the mistakes in it. Right, now we're going to look at this. Take this example. Nous avons mangé. They are red, orange, green. The traffic lights for the person, auxiliary and past participle. Manger is an ER verb. That's why we've got the E acute. The person is whoever's doing it, nous. The past participle is that manger verb, the one that's been tweaked to get its E acute. The auxiliary is usually just the present tense of the verb avoir. So it's j'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. That's what you're using in the middle. So those are your 3 elements. Unless the verb, so manger, acheter, whatever the verb you're talking about, is what we call a house verb. In which case, the auxiliary is not the present tense of avoir, it's the present tense of être. And there it is for your memory. Je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. And in that case, the past participle is going to agree with the person that did it. Examples. Nous sommes allés, elles sont montées, ma mère est sortie. Those are 3 what we call house verbs, and the aller, monter, and sortie are agreeing with the person that did it. So, nous sommes allés. Nous is a general form we, it's plural. We don't know that it's all girls, so we're going to assume, perhaps slightly sexistly, that it isn't, and that it's a mixed group or a male group, in which case we're just going to add an S. We're not going to add an extra E because we don't know that it's feminine. The second one, however, we do know it's feminine. They, and in this case they are all female, went up, monter, to go up. It's a house verb, so we're going to agree, monter, and put an extra E and S. Ma mère est sortie, it's my mother, she's feminine, so sortie, which is my basic past participle, because IR verb sortir goes to I, we're adding an E onto it. How do you know which is a house verb? Here comes the picture. Right. Don't worry too much about the bedroom verbs for now. Now, as we know, house verbs take être. So I've just put under there, je suis, okay? Because most of the time you'll be talking about yourself. Now, they're called house verbs because they all fit in this little picture of a house. So in my house, there's a big front door. You can go in, entrer. You can go out, sortir. And those are the past participles of those two verbs. Entrer, e acute, sortir with just an I. Aller and venir, come and go. There's your past participle. Aller with the acute, venu with a U, highly irregular. Bit of a one-off there, because most of them in this house are regular. Arriver, you've got your E acute from the verb arriver with an ER. And partir, you've got an I from your verb partir. So it just goes to parti. Then you've got, once you're inside the house, you've done your coming and going, entering, exiting, arriving and departing. Now we're going up and down the stairs. Monter and descendre are the verbs. Monter and descendu are your past participles. And once you're upstairs, you might fall out of the window and die. Heaven forbid. Tomber, to fall, goes to E acute. And mourir, oh, irregular one. The past participle is mort, M-O-R-T. Now, this is the house in which you were born. Je suis né, I was born. So you've got any acute up here from the verb naître. And you've always stayed there in that bed, in the attic. So je suis resté. Okay, so we're building up an image in our minds of this house and all the verbs that belong in it. Now, as it happens, there's also some coming home verbs. Okay, again, you'd expect with a house to come home to it sometimes. So rentrer, to come home. Je suis rentré chez moi. Je suis retourné, which is I returned. It's the same meaning. And je suis revenu, which is a derivation of je suis venu. So it goes the same way and it means I came back. There's also je suis devenu, because as we saw from our present tense, there are derivations of venir include revenir and devenir. In the same way, this rentrer is just a derivation of entrer. And in fact, you can put re on the front of lots of these, like remonter, went up again, and ressorti, if it came out again. So those are the verbs, the house verbs. This picture you need to get into your head, because every time you think of a verb that you did in the past, you're going to have to think, is it a house verb? Otherwise, you won't know if it's je or je suis. So you get a picture of this. You may have been taught it as Mrs. Van der Tramp, which is fine if you know what all those letters stand for. I can't say I always do, especially when there's two of the same one sometimes. And I've done a little extra room here. Now, those reflexive verbs that we did last time, lesson 2, in the present tense, remember they went like this. Je me lève, je me douche, je m'habille, je m'amuse, je me couche. In the past, we've got our je me, but we're going to put our suis after that. So je suis for the main house verbs, je me suis for those reflexive verbs. Here are some examples of their past participles, and just like the rest of the house verbs, they will agree with the subject. They'll agree with the person that's doing it. So, to conclude, what we've learned today is the passé composé, or the perfect tense, is for events that happened in the past, one-off events, not ongoing things. It's made up of 3 things: the person, the auxiliary, and the past participle. The past participle is usually made with an E acute, a U, or an I, but there are exceptions. The auxiliary is usually avoir, unless it's a house verb. If it's a house verb, the participle, it takes être, and the participle agrees with the person. Try and remember all that for your next French test at school, and I'll be back tomorrow with our next chapter. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.